Argentina v New Zealand, the opening game for both of these teams in this year's truncated Rugby Championship. Only 3 rounds this year because of the Rugby World Cup in September. It's today, Saturday, the 8th of July. Kickoff is 8:10 BST. It's in the Estadio Malvinas Argentinas in Mendoza. This is the first time that New Zealand will have played there. It's like a 40-odd thousand seater stadium, and it's been sold out for 2 months. So really good business there for Argentina. It shows how much interest there is in this game. Let's have a quick look at the two teams. So Emiliano Buffelli at fullback. Then you got Delgai on the right wing. The centres are Moroni and Cinti. We got Mateo Carreras on the left wing, then Santiago Carreras at 10, and Bertrand at 9. Front row is Gallo, Montoya, and Sordoni. The second row then is Alemano and Lavanini. Back row, Matera, Juanmanchin Gonzalez, and Bruni. Then the bench got Creevy, Vivas, Bello, Ribiolo, Medrano, Bazan, Velez, Sanchez, and Orlando. So kind of a mix in there. Like you got, Buffelli, who is a great performer for them, but he can be a little bit hot and cold. And I think for him, whether he's doing the kicking or not can affect his game as well. If he's kicking and he nails his kick, generally you're going to see an overall generally good display from him. I think the centres, Moroni and Cinti, they're going to be, probably up against it in defence, but under Checa, I think Argentina have added kind of a better backs game to their repertoire as well, so they're not going to just be on defensive duty. Carreras and Sanchez, we talk a little bit later about them, like who's getting the start over who, etc. The front row, Gallo, Montoya, and Sordoni. We got Montoya there with plenty of experience, and then you got Creevy to come on for him as well, more experience as well. But it's kind of at prop really that they're kind of struggling for that experience at the minute. You got great experience in Alemano and Lavanini. In the second row, you got Kremer, who is suspended for the entire term as well, not available. Then the back row, you got Matera there. Gonzalez and Bruni, not really new to test rugby, but still, still, I would say not established as definite starters in that back row as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. On the bench then, they've got a mix, a few experienced guys, but a lot of kind of inexperienced guys at test level as well to come on there. So if they're looking for something from the bench to kind of put them over the top, might be a bit difficult for them. And, if it's a tight game, you might actually see some players who would normally be, subbed off actually playing the full 80 minutes. On to New Zealand then, you got fullback is Bowden Barrett, then we got Amoni Narawa on the right wing. The centres are Ione and Jordy Barrett. Caleb Clark is on the left wing. Got Damon McKenzie starting at 10, Aaron Smith at 9. Front row then is Ethan de Groot, Dane Coles, and Tyrell Lomax. So kind of, for Northern Hemisphere, maybe a little bit of a changing of the guard at the in props, but against Argentina, it's hard to say whether these guys are going to get starts against the Springboks as well. So we'll have to see how that goes with that one. The second row then, again, a mix of experience and inexperience. Got Scott Barrett and Josh Lord there. Josh Lord hasn't played for a couple of seasons, I think, for the All Blacks. The back row then, you got Shannon Frizzell, Sam Kane, and Artie Sabea. Sabea, one of the most talented rugby players in the world, not just forwards, and always great to see him on a rugby pitch. Replacements then you got Cody Taylor, Ofa Tungafasi, Nepo Laulala, Tupo Vai, Dalton Papilihi, Finlay Christie, Richie Mwanga, and Braden Enor there as well. So, again, a mix of experience and kind of guys finding their feet at test level or with a point to prove as well. So I think a lot of players chosen here. It's definitely not what you would expect the strongest All Black team to be, but they're it's certainly not a second team by any stretch of the imaginations either. And again, a lot of players there who want to put the hand up for the Rugby World Cup with a point to prove there. So in terms of last year, the first game, New Zealand 18, Argentina 25. So Argentina's first win on New Zealand soil. It was very physical from them. Buffelli had a great kicking display. I think he got 20 of 25 points for Argentina from the boot. Again, I think for him, if he's kicking, that can kind of affect his overall game. That if he's going well from the tee, generally he goes well in other aspects of play. The other game then was New Zealand 53, Argentina 3. So immediate revenge for New Zealand for that first defeat to Argentina on New Zealand soil. Had 7 tries and 7 different try scores as well. So lots of players getting in on the scoring there. Last time they played in Argentina was 2019. That was Argentina 16, New Zealand 20. New Zealand kind of hung on for the victory in the end. They were trailing in the first half early on, 9-7, but then they got scored a converted try and a couple of penalties to get themselves, that lead 29 at halftime. Didn't score at all in the second half, but decent defensive displays from them to hang on for the victory. Team talking points. I think Czech has picked the best available side, the strongest available side for Argentina. They're a little light on experience in the at prop, especially at tight head. You got Sardoni there, only got 3 caps, and Bello with 10 caps on the bench. But New Zealand, they're not a destructive scrum, and I think around the park is maybe where these guys will be a little bit found out, because New Zealand, they like with inexperienced front rowers, rather than attack them in the set piece, to actually move them around the field and then put either big runners or get a fast back through a gap that they've left and then exploit that. So have a look out for that in the game. Carrera preferred a 10 ahead of Nicolas Sanchez. Sanchez has had a run of injuries over the last couple of seasons, been in and out of the team. He's another 37-year-old fly half looking to make the Rugby World Cup, similar to Johnny Sexton. So hopefully the legs hold out for that. But who's going to be the preferred 10 by the Rugby World Cup report or fit? That's going to be kind of an interesting equation there. In terms of the All Blacks, then you got Imoni Narawa set to make his debut on the right wing. This guy, if you haven't seen him before, runs good support running lines. He tends to keep his width when he's playing on the wing as well, so he's not taking space away from the ball carrier, and he keeps his depth as well, generally, at least, for looking for those offloads. He's got nice pace. He's also got great offloading game himself. He's got all the tricks, one-handed offloads, one-handed behind the back, that kind of stuff. So look out for that. But he does tend to carry the ball in one hand very often, which at test level can cause problems. It's going to depend on whether he really does have the skills and the ball handling to make that not an issue for him. We have seen before where you get a player like that and going to try and maybe ground the ball or something, and ball gets dislodged, and what should have been a certain try suddenly isn't. So maybe that's going to happen to him, maybe not. We've got just 4 of the all-conquering Super Rugby champions, the Crusaders, into 23. By contrast, you've got 7 from the Blues, 5 from the Chiefs. Chiefs were the other finalists in that Super Rugby grand final. We've also got 4 from the Canes and 3 from the Highlanders, so a big mix across all of New Zealand's Super Rugby teams there. I think it kind of speaks to the fact that, New Zealand generally will make changes for Argentina that they wouldn't make for maybe a Springbok game. Not the strongest side. Some players, you know, probably will strengthen their cause for a Rugby World Cup on the back of this. But if things go badly, some players may not be seen again in this Rugby World Cup cycle. New Zealand have, even though people say, "Oh, New Zealand are not as good as they used to be," the depth of talent is still there. Maybe like the cream of that talent is not as good as we're used to from New Zealand, but they're still a really good side. They've still got a great chance of winning the Rugby World Cup, and there's still tons of very talented players below the test team. So if you're someone who gets your chance against Argentina and don't have a good game, just somebody just as good to step in and maybe shine in the next game, and then suddenly you're back to the back of the queue. So players really do have to perform when they get the chance. Talking about that, Mackenzie getting a start at 10, it's an interesting one. I think he's a very talented player, but they struggle to find a permanent starting spot for him in the team because you got the likes of, Bowden Barrett and Will Jordan potentially at fullback. You got Mwanga at 10 as well, potentially Geordie Barrett at 10 too. So Mackenzie could see himself as a 23rd man or even a squad player for the Rugby World Cup, because it doesn't seem to be able to nail down a starting, position because of his versatility and also because of the talent that they do have available. But he's really going to have to take this chance if he is going to put his hand up for a starting berth at the Rugby World Cup. Mwanga is on the bench. He hasn't really nailed down that 10 shirt for himself either. He's got immense talent too, but just can't really have that run of games where people are convinced that he is the 10 for the Rugby World Cup. Views from the camp then from Argentina don't really have anything. Checa, I was hoping to get some quotes from him, but couldn't really find any anywhere. Ian Foster has been talking about the need to balance the building combinations ahead of the Rugby World Cup and managing the squad after that Super Rugby final. So that's probably why we don't see so many Sailors in the squad for this game. They'll come through though throughout the rest of the Rugby Championship and the build up to the Rugby World Cup. He said he's confident in how they're building towards that, and this is going to be a massive test for them. In terms of my prediction, I think, Argentina did well to beat New Zealand in New Zealand last year, but I think that unless they can really catch them on the hop again this year, first game out, New Zealand won't be firing on all cylinders, but neither will Argentina. But if they can catch them on the hop, might be able to get a lead. But I think it's going to be one of those ones where it's a tight game for 50, 60 minutes, and then New Zealand pull away towards the end, especially as that bench comes on and adds some, quality into the team as well. So my prediction is New Zealand for this one.